BookTube, it's Jackie. How's it going? If you're new to me, it's the first time you're seeing my face. Hello, what's up? My name's Jackie. I sit on my floor and I talk about books. So that's why you're here, because that's what's going to be happening today. If you are not new to me, thank you for always tuning in, and the continued support, really do appreciate it. So today for you, I have my weekly wrap up. This is from July 31st through August 6th and all my reading shenanigans in between. But this video is also meeting my romance takeover readathon wrap up as well that I participated in, because everything I read this week falls under that readathon's umbrella. So instead of making two separate videos about literally the same books, I thought I'd just combine them and save you guys a trip, and then I get to talk a little bit more about my books. So yay! So without further ado, grab yourself a drink, have yourself a seat, and let's get talking some books. Okay, so like I said, this is also meeting my romance takeover readathon wrap-up video. And if you're not familiar with the romance takeover readathon, it is a readathon that was hosted by Jen over at the book Refuge, along with 5 other lovely ladies, and I will link all of them down below. It was a week-long readathon where all we did was read romance books, as many as you possibly could. But there was a little bit of a game to it. There was the light side and the dark side that you got to choose from, and of course I chose the dark side because everything is better in the dark. And for this game, there was a game board. It was a bingo board actually that Jen created, and she gave us a list of prompts that were dark prompts and light prompts. And we also got some gray prompts in there that you can find in both sides of the romance world. And so when you created your bingo board, you picked prompts from your alignment plus some gray prompts to fill in. And this is what my bingo board looked like. So I had 8 dark prompts and I had 8 light prompts. And for the books I read, I did a pretty good job. I didn't black this thing out by any means, but I did get my bingo. I think I got a couple. So you'll see that at the end. Now, the way I'm going to be talking about these books is I'm actually going to be going in their rating order. So I'm actually going to start with my lowest rated book to my highest rated book, because I didn't really have any other order to really talk these in, because in my notes, when I start a book, I wrote it down, but I didn't technically finish it before another book. So this way, I'm just going by rankings. So the first book that we're going to be discussing today is The Pageant by Lilith Vincent. The Pageant received my lowest rating of the week of 2 stars. Yeah, 2 stars. But this book did knock off a lot of prompts. It hit reverse harem, captor captive, second chance, BDSM, mafia, and taboo. So this book alone, bingo board, looks like this. So pretty impressive. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, it's kind of nice. I enjoy it. So it did do a lot for me, this one book, even though it only gave me 2 stars. But this book also did another thing. It is actually the August selection for the Smut Club, hosted by Cheyenne at That Tall Book Girl and McKay at Oh Hey It's McKay. I'll link their channels down below as well. And this was the August selection for the Smut Club. And I'm a participant in this, so I was very glad that I got to knock this off very early in the month. That was fantastic. And this was my maiden voyage for my Kindle. So yes, I have finally entered the world of the Kindle, and this was my very first book with it. So even though it didn't get a high ranking, it did meet a lot of challenges for me. It met some requirements for me, and then did give me a maiden voyage, which was really pretty cool. So a little bit about this book. This is the first installment in the Pageant duology, and the second installment, Crowned, either just came out last week or it's coming out this week. I'm not 100% sure, which makes me really happy, because even though I only gave this book a 2-star, knowing that there is a sequel to it that continues with this same storyline, because there is not an HEA in this, there is a cliffhanger, I'm really happy, because it might be able to build up this story, because there are good components to the story. It's just this book was not, it just wasn't for me. It wasn't working for me, but I'm hoping that a second installment might help flesh out some more of these things and maybe make it a really excellent story. So I'm all for giving things second chances, especially when, you know, I understand series, not every book's a hit. It's just not, sometimes you just need that book to kind of like bridge you over, but this was the first book. So all right. In this book, we experience a lot of shit. All right. A lot of shit. We have somnophilia. We've got some murder and torture. We got some BDSM practices. And then we bring in some edge play with an emphasis in gunplay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We hit that. So if you are not familiar with any of those, somnophilia is, let me get you the clinical definition. Somnophilia is someone who's becoming sexually aroused by someone who's unconscious. That is the scientific term for it, but if In layman's terms, it's often known as the Sleeping Beauty kink. If you've ever heard that, that is what somnophilia is. The arousal of somebody who's unconscious. All right? So Sleeping Beauty kink. Now, I also mentioned edge play and gunplay. Now, I'm going to read you the definitions just so I make sure I get everything correct. Edge play is a subjective term for activity, sexual or mentally manipulative, that may challenge the conventional, safe, sane, and consensual, or SSC, scheme. If one is aware of the risks and consequences and is willing to accept them, then the activity is considered risk-aware consensual kink or RAC. Edge play may involve the consequences of potential short or long-term harm or death, exemplified by activities such as breath play or erotic asphyxiation, fire play, knife play, fear play, temperature play, wax play, and in this book's instance, gun play, as well as the potential increased risk for disease, secro-converting when the risk of bodily fluid exchange is present, such as cutting, blood play, and barebacking. Now, to go further into it, gunplay is the practice of including a real firearm or simulated firearm in a scene, most oftentimes not loaded, but it is used to incite fear to the sub or bottom. However, there is a small minority of gun players that do use loaded weapons, and they do identify as risk-aware consensual kinks or RAC members. So a lot of clinical stuff there, a lot of stuff I've never experienced before, so a lot of newbies for me in this book. I always like experiencing new things. There's no kink shaming here. You do you. Just make sure you're aware of all the triggers and everything like that, and you're safe about it, okay? So the summary of this book, we have, I believe her name is Lilia. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Lillia. So I hope I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But she is a model, and she has been kidnapped to participate in a high-stakes pageant to find the pecan of the local Bratva mafia, this is Russian mafia, a new bride. The three men involved in this pageant are Konstantin, Elia, and Kryl. Konstantin is the pecan looking for the bride, and he seems to be the most tame, the most clinical, the most all there. But he does have some severe trauma, and the triggers do show in the book as well. We also have Elia, who is a spurned lover of Lilia's. So we have a backstory with Lilia and Elia. And then we have Kryl, who's the enforcer, and he's pretty much just the sadistic one. He doesn't really give a flying fuck as long as his dick gets wet and he gets to cause pain. That's pretty much his game. So Konstantin, the head guy in charge, Kryl, the enforcer, Elia is the spurned lover who wants revenge on Lilia, and the reason he wants revenge is because he believes Lilia's turned rat, because Lilia is the former bride to Elia's former boss. So there's a lot of backstory in this leading up to the actual pageant of the story. So there's a lot of major players. So we have a past love, we have past trauma with the main guy, Kryl, there's some shit going on with him. Then you have this pageant with 16 women. Lilia is told in the beginning of the book, you are not surviving this pageant. Once you're out, I'm offing you. You're dead. You're done. Elia wants you gone. So she already knows that she can't survive this pageant. She's just there to round out the 16 because 16 is a specific number that Konstantin wants, and we're never really informed of why. Now, once she's actually in the pageant, then the story really takes off. But you don't really see much of the pageant. And here's where one of my hangups of this book is. And I'm starting a little back. I usually do with what works first, but I'm going to do with what doesn't work first because there was a lot more that didn't work in this book than what worked. The pageant scenes, like the actual pageantry, the competition, the whole reason for this book, you don't really see much of it with any other girl at all because they're all doing it individually. You only see Lilia. So really, is there a pageant or is he just torturing this girl? Like the cohesion with it, just, it didn't work. I feel like this book was trying to do too much because it has all these balls in the air and it couldn't keep them all afloat. Something had to drop, and I think the main plot point was the one that dropped. Like this, trying to find a bride. That kind of dropped because it all became about Lilia, and we were told in the very beginning she was never gonna fucking win. So why are we focusing so much on her? you know, we learned hardly anything about the other girls, hardly anything. And that irked me. And this love story between Elia and Lilia, it feels very, very forced. It felt very forced. I did not appreciate it. I got it in the past when they were talking about the past storyline of it. I thought it was sweet. I thought it was like, okay, that's cool. But then it's like, what? Okay, you've hated this woman for years and now you see her and all of your hatred is now gone because she batted her eyelashes at you. It felt very, very forced. It did. It felt very, very forced to me. And I was not happy with it. Now, however, what did work was the initial pageant concept. I thought the initial concept for this book was fantastic. I thought it was great. I was looking forward to seeing the pageant and kind of figuring out how they did this and what kind of tests and trials they were going to put them through. But they really didn't do much because Ilia's tests were not the same as everybody else's. And that's the only tests that we saw. So I was kind of like, okay, that's great. And Lilia backstory with Isla. I thought their backstory was excellent. I thought it was great. But I liked it as a backstory. I didn't like it being trying to force back into the future, into present day. And I just didn't, it didn't flow back in to present day well enough for me. That is something that can easily be done, but it wasn't done well enough for me to actually appreciate it. It just felt very, very forced. This book felt forced, majority of it. Cohesion, everything was there. It just wasn't clicking. This book wasn't clicking on a lot of different moments. Now, however, the sex scenes in this book, I did give a 3.75 on Chili Pepper scale because we did have the different kinks in there. We had the somnophilia and we had the very, very hardcore gunplay scene. So there's a scene here that, damn. When I read this scene, I was like, Lily is badass. Yep, she's badass. I liked her. I liked her as a character, and I really liked her at this scene because I was like, man, this bitch means fucking business. She means business. Go fuck yourselves and have a nice goddamn day. I was rooting for her in this scene, and I really enjoyed this scene. And I was like, okay, I got this one. Maybe we're gonna go with it a little bit more, but Lila Vincent nailed it on her sex scenes. Her sex scenes were fantastic. So they did save this book a lot for me. So when it comes to smut level, I think this book definitely took the cake for smut level when it came to my smut club. But all in all, whole journey, it was just 2 stars for me. So yeah. The next book I have, I had 2 3 stars, so we're just gonna go the next one in line, is Priceless by Jane Henry, which is right here. And this bingo board looked like this. It hit BDSM, Age Gap, Mafia, Second Chance, and Virgin Heroin. So we got Priceless, which is the first installment of the Ruthless Dom series by Jane Henry. And it is a BDSM romance with sex trafficking and a master-slave component. Also, we have a damsel in distress with a hero trope involved as well. So this installment is, like I said, the first installment to the Ruthless Dom series, which is a spin-off series of Wicked Doms by Jane Henry, which I absolutely fucking adored. So I was going to this hoping I was going to love this just as much as that one. And I didn't. I didn't love it as much as I thought I was going to. I only gave it a 3-star. This follows Nikolai and Marissa. Nikolai is Marissa's bodyguard and has been pining for her for years. Marissa is a recent high school graduate who has been secretly in love with her bodyguard for years. Shocker. But as she's graduated, her father goes into debt and sells her into sex trafficking. Nikolai finds out about it and essentially kidnaps her to protect her, but is then found out, caught, and Marissa is taken and sold in sex trafficking, and Nikolai is left for dead. So then we have this revenge component where Nikolai survives his attempted murder and basically rechanges his entire life to find her, to save her, and protect her once again. And I loved the storyline of this book. I love the concept of it. I thought it was great, but that's pretty much all about this book that I loved. I I was a little heartbroken on this one. I was really pumped for this because I loved the Wicked Dom series so fucking much. Oh my god, I loved it so much. But this one did not hold up as well as I wanted it to. What didn't work, the ending again wrapped up too nicely. That just seems to be a common theme with Jane. With Jane Henry's work, she wraps up her endings really nicely. Everything falls into place. Because we got to have that HEA, and that's fine, but I want more grit, and I just want more to it. I don't want the ending to be handed me so easily when the rest of the book wasn't. We touched on a lot of dark issues, but most of those dark issues were off page, and I think this book would have benefited more if we would have seen it. I mean, Marissa goes through sex trafficking. She's a virgin, so she's held longer because she's going through a virgin auction, and when we meet her up again, she is completely broken. She can't even look people in the face. She doesn't even remember who the hell she is. I would have liked to see what she had gone through to put her that way. It would have made me feel for her more as a character, and maybe would have embraced the character of her and then Nikolai's extent that he has to go through to get her back to where she was. I think I would appreciate it a little bit more had I actually known what she went through instead of just imagining it. This book was just too tame. Compared to the Wicked Dom series, it was so tame. It's pegged as a BDSM romance, and there's nothing BDSM in this book at all. Nothing. There's some spanking and a belt. Cool. That's super exciting. So, yeah. It was just too tame for me. And the sex scenes, I gave it a 2 chili pepper because it's baking. That's like this hardcore as we're going to get here, people. The dominant language was great, though. The language that Nikolai used, the imagery that he was creating of dominance and submission. We get to see a lot of, like, snapping, kneel, keep your head down. Like, we saw a lot of the verbal cues and physical cues. We didn't actually see any of the aspects of it. The spanking scenes were the only dominant scene that we really saw. We got to see the one belt scene, which was sort of cool, but she wanted it, so it wasn't really, it was towards the end of the book, so like all the drama was gone, all the intensity was gone with it. So but my main component for this book was being as dominant as Nikolai was, and how he in his inner monologues was saying like how her submission turned him on and everything like that. He was pretty fucking vanilla. Like, he was really fucking vanilla. But we do have a virginal scene in here, which, knocked it up just a little bit. Yeah, but this book left me wanting, and Wicked Doms didn't. A little depressed about this one. Yeah, a little depressed. But I'm still going to continue with the rest of the series because I still did very much enjoy it. The next book I have to talk about is another 3-star, which was Temptation by Ivy Smoke, and that is the first installment in the Hunted series. And its bingo board looks like this. It hit Bully, Taboo, and Age Gap. So not as many as the others, but it did hit some, and it is the first installment in the series with a cliffhanger ending. So we do not have an HEA in this just yet, which I was lied to. Amy told me that it ended happily, and it doesn't, okay? It didn't end. Very mad, and I totally called her out on it the next day, but I'm okay because I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. This is a teacher-student relationship with an age gap. We have Penny Taylor, who's a 19-year-old sophomore in Professor Hunter's communication class, and John Hunter, who is a gorgeous 27-year-old brilliant and wealthy college professor, because, he has to be wealthy and brilliant. There's a chance encounter in a coffee shop that kind of leads Hunter to kind of stalk Penny for a little bit, but then he finds out Penny is in his comm class, and this flirtation begins through actual class assignments. He asks people to give speeches, and the speeches she gives kind of gives him innuendos of who she is as a person, which I thought was really quite adorable that they used the classroom element to convey the story. Thought that was great. Loved it. It wasn't until he gives her a bad grade that she finally confronts him, and then this flirtation becomes a physical relationship, and then secrets on both sides, and one of the secrets is revealed, and then trust has to be re-earned, and it just becomes this spiral of events from there on. What worked in this book? the physical chemistry between Penny and Hunter you see from immediately the first page, the first encounter. You know it's there. You know something's going to happen. It was really well written in the book. I loved it. I loved their verbal cues and the way they flirted with each other. Their physical cues, the stern looks, the coy glances. Loved it. I loved how it was written into it. It's great. The use of the class to communicate the feelings. That was like I said, that was great. It was brilliant. I've never seen a teacher-student relationship use that. It's usually just, that's the meeting point, but they actually use that to convey many major moments in the relationship. So when there was a fight, it was brought out in the classroom. But nobody in the classroom knew what the fuck was going on because it was all 3 assignments. So I thought that was great. That was really ingenious and fantastic. And I really liked this because this is an age gap. So we have a 19-year-old and 27-year-old. In hindsight, not a huge fucking age gap, but the maturity level is there. The maturity level difference is there, and you see it with Penny, the way she makes choices. So when she's mad at Hunter, the choices she makes, that's what a normal 19-year-old girl is gonna fucking make. That's what she's gonna do, no matter how old the guy is. She's going to do what Penny does. And I like the fact that they didn't make Penny more mature than a normal 19-year-old girl really is. I really enjoyed that because it felt more relatable. I remember when I was 19, I made stupid fucking choices like that. So I completely related to her, and I thought it was great. What didn't work? I thought Hunter was too perfect. He was written to be too, like, he just seemed to be too fucking perfect. Like, he was gorgeous, he was brilliant, he was smart, he was sexy, he was dominant, he knew exactly what to say, he had a nice fucking car, he had a nice house, he was wealthy, he didn't need to fucking teach. You know, he had a gorgeous wife at one point in time who apparently didn't like him, and it's just too perfect. Like, give me some flaw. Give me some brooding, you know. The last teacher-student relationship I read was Serena Ackroyd's professor. At least that guy was just a dick. You know, this guy's not even mean. He's nice. Like, he starts off kind of a bully, but it's always coy, and he was a little too perfect for me. Little too perfect. I want a little bit more grit to my men. Thank you. And the fact that as educated as this man is, how extremely infatuated he was with Penny. He is an educated man. He's a college professor, and he automatically assumed that she was a senior. I don't know a single college professor that I had that didn't know what grade level I fucking was. There's not a single one that I didn't know, that didn't know what level of age I was. They might not know my exact age, but they knew what grade level I was. He didn't even know she was a sophomore. Like, he assumed she was a senior. What? No, that wasn't believable for me. And I didn't appreciate that because it bothered me. Because I was like, you know, you're this brilliant, educated scholar, and yet you don't even check your fucking roster? What the? It's on your fucking roster. Like, the fuck, man? Yeah, whatever. I didn't buy that. That bothered me. So that completely took like the whole age gap thing. If you would just looked at it, it would have made more sense. The sex scenes, however, I did give 3 chili peppers. There was a lot of various locations in this, which is always exciting. A lot of public areas, which was really super cool. A lot of positions, but it was written in a way I understood what the fuck they were talking about, and I didn't have to look anything up. Really like when I don't have to look anything up for sex scenes. Love that. Very graphic language. There was mild dominance with some looks and some stern words, but it wasn't dominance from like a dom, but it was more from a professor. This is all stuff that like a professor I could see doing. Like, you didn't do your homework, so I'm going to look at you and say, why didn't you do your homework? What did you do that was more important? Just like that very calm, I'm in control moment. It just seemed more professor than it did actual dom. So I just chalked it up to that. But that was Temptation by Ivy Smoke. And even though I only gave it 3 stars, I plan on competing with the rest of the series because I definitely want to know what happens, because that cliffhanger, ooh, yeah, that was great. That was awesome. And the last book that I read, and the one that I've got some shit to fucking say, and the highest rated book of this readathon was Priest by Sierra Simone. I gave this book 4 stars, and this, for the Romance Takeover Readathon, hit the prompts of priest romance, obviously, taboo, and BDSM, and this is what the bingo board for this book looked like. This is the first installment to a trilogy. I think there's only currently 3 books in the series, but it is a standalone within that trilogy. And it obviously is a priest romance, but it does show scenes of suicide. There is very graphic language with a emphasis on the degrading kink, which you are not familiar with the degrading kink. That is the consensual practice of using derogatory names and phrases such as bitch, whore, idiot, etc. To humiliate and degrade your partner during sex. And they are okay with this. And then there's sexual practices in public and religious spaces. So, summary of this book, you have Father Tyler Bell and Poppy Danforth, which, by the way, I have to state this, I did not like her name. I thought it was annoying. Did not like this name. Wish they would have given her a different fucking name. Poppy is looking for something. She believes the church might be able to help her find it. She finds herself at a very weird crossroads where she is wanting and she enjoys sex, but at the same time she was raised to not. And so she's at this crossroads. She doesn't understand what to do. And she has these fantasies and thoughts about herself that she just doesn't quite understand. So she thinks having the church involved might help clarify or nullify some of those things. And Father Tyler is the priest that she goes to confess. And well, this book just puts his vow of celibacy to the fucking test. If there ever was one, oh my God. That's essentially the story. It is the story of Father Tyler and Poppy and this very taboo, very not supposed to happen relationship happening in the most exquisitely fucked up way. Oh my God. So, what worked in this book? The imagery and feelings created during some of the intimate scenes were just ecstatic, okay? I am Roman Catholic. I went to a Catholic high school, and for a few years I did go to a Catholic grade school. So I'm used to dealing with priests. I learned religious history. I did all that. Like, I went to church every week. I sat in the church. Like, okay, I've done it. I've done the confession. I've done all this. I've received all the sacraments that I can, except for holy orders, because I'm not becoming a priest or a nun anytime soon. But I've received every other sacrament that a Roman Catholic can. So I have participated in all of this, all of these sacraments, and the imagery that Sierra Simone created within this book, with things that I have grown up knowing what their only sole purpose was, and then giving them a different purpose, was just, oh my God, damn. Oh, it was epic. It was so fucking good. There was a line in the book, baptism by kiss rather than water. That's exactly what this book was. It was a baptism by fornication other than a baptism with peace and love. It was so well done. There was often mentions of these stillness of God moments, which, if you've never heard of this, it's that moment where it could be anywhere, and you feel, not that you're alone or somebody's watching you, but you feel like there's this overarching presence to you, but you're at peace with it and you're okay with it. And just the moments that she chose to write in these God moments were just, they were not the moments you thought they were gonna be, okay? They're not. And it was fantastic because it just, it was beautiful. It was beautiful the way she wrote. She wrote this book beautifully. For as graphic, for as dirty, for obscene as this book was, it was exquisite and so fucking good. Oh my God, I loved it. I loved it. I loved the fact that she joined these intense sexual scenes with these religious practices. I mean, there is an altar sex scene which just fucking knocked me off my socks. Had to turn it off. I had to take a moment. Felt like I had to go to confession afterwards. I'm not even gonna lie to you about it. The fact that he's using the actual verbiage of when the priest consecrates the bread and wine into the body and blood of Christ and is reciting it over a naked woman splayed out on the altar that's tied down with fucking Christ, that was great. Oh my God. It was so intense and so stimulating at the same time, but it was so, like, I hate using the word taboo. You know I hate using the word taboo, but goddamn, it gave you tingles everywhere for so many different reasons. Like, I am not supposed to be enjoying this because I am Roman Catholic. I know what these mean. I know what the altar means. I know how sacrilegious this is. But at the same time, it was just the way she wrote it. It was like, why is this a bad thing? She wrote it to actually make you think, like, why is this bad? Why is this a concept that is bad? And unforgiving because it's such a beautiful moment between these two characters when they realize the love they have. It's just, oh my God, it was great. It was fucking fantastic. And the fact that she used the actual verbiage during this, oh my God, that was ballsy and brilliant, and I loved every single fucking second of it. The idea of the Virgin and Madonna, the whore complex was brought to the forefront with this, and I love that because that's something that women suffer with all the time. Be a woman in the streets, but lady in the streets, but a freak in the sheets. Like, you have to be this prim, proper woman, but at the same time, you're also supposed to be this degrading whore that will let people do anything to you. It's a common trope that a lot of women have to deal with on a daily basis, and it was brought to the forefront in a really fucking kick-ass way. So, I mean, she brought it straight there. There was no denying it, and it was there throughout the entirety of the book. And the way Father Bell handled it with Poppy was just phenomenal. That line was tread so well. Oh, it was great. It was so, so good. And the philosophies about sin and relationship versus what's right and what's wrong within them and within the church that were brought to the forefront, I thought was fantastic. A lot of internal struggles. I mean, this book is pure angst and torture and pain. But that's Catholics. We're built on guilt, wine, and bread. That's what we're built on. So I completely resonated with this book 100% with all of that, internalized guilt and feeling sorry and asking for forgiveness of things. I completely understood what Tyler Bell was going through and related to it. Not exactly, because I've never actually done any of that, but I can understand his pain for the vows that he took and the promises that he made. But at the same time, not understanding, we have this in religion, in the Roman Catholic faith, we have this idea of free will, but we also have this concept of destiny. And how do you tread between free will and destiny? When things are put in your place for a reason, how do you choose? And in many eyes, he chose wrong. He chose the way of sin, but did he really choose the way of sin when this beautiful entity was created for him, and the feelings it gave about him, the spiritualness it almost brought him closer to God than away from God in this book. And I thought it was just fucking great. I thought it was just fantastic what she did with this book and this relationship. It was just stunning. What didn't work? The epilogue. I didn't think the epilogue was at all necessary. I didn't give a shit about it. I didn't, and probably because majority of this book was from Tyler's perspective and the epilogue was from Poppy's, and I didn't give a shit. I listened to this on audiobook and I thought it was fantastic, and I didn't want to hear her voice. I wanted to hear his, and only his perspective. That's the whole story told from his perspective, so that's what I wanted. I wanted the epilogue from his, and I didn't get it, and I thought it was kind of useless. I didn't care. And here's why this book is not 5 stars, is the ending. Yes, there is an HEA, but it's not the HEA I wanted. Father Tyler Bell goes through a emotional, religious, spiritual, sexual journey through this book. And out on the other side of the journey, he realizes something, that his initial idea was wrong, but it's not the idea that you're thinking. And he gets put on the path that he's supposed to fucking be on, and he goes on it. He went, for all the Catholics out there, all the religious, he went through the fucking desert, okay? He went through the desert. And he came out stronger for it. So the ending that I got, I felt like he just backtracked. I didn't want them to end up together. And this might be getting hate for this, but I did not want them together. I don't think she is a heroine. Now, mind you, I only got his point of view for pretty much the entire of the book. I don't think she is a heroine, went through as much as he did, so therefore she was not worthy of what he did. He deserved better for the sacrifice, for what he did. He completely flipped his whole fucking life, but he had to flip his life because he needed to get put on the right path. And so she served her purpose. She had come into his life, fucked it up in a good way, gave him some really great nights, got him on the path that he was supposed to be on. He needed to find the person he needed to be with, and I don't think it was her. I gave this book a 4-star because it gave me a happy ending that I didn't want. He already had his happy ending. He got himself back the way he was supposed to be. Not with her. That's one reason why I didn't think the epilogue was necessary, because it just solidified the ending that I didn't want. So, yeah. The sex scenes in this book, I gave... I gave this a 5-star because this thing was kinky as hell for me, just because of all the religious iconography that was used during it. The partial fucking scene was great for me. I thought that was fantastic. And the fact that this part made me giggle. After the end, she says, "I'll see you at mass tomorrow." And then he blesses her with the sign of the cross after literally just fucking her on his rectory table. I was like, that doesn't get any better. That was just comical at that point. I thought it was great. And again, the altar scene, I mean, those scenes just solidified the rating for me in this book. They were just, oh, they were great. They were so, so good. So good. I do feel like I need to go to confessional a little bit after this book because I was so excited about this book. I actually bought the physical copy of this and the other 2 installments, and they're supposed to be coming in the mail here soon, so I get to add in my collection. But this thing was just stunning. It was angsty. It was painful. It was, I don't want to say it was uplifting, but it definitely thought-provoking. And I actually had a few conversations with people after this book about this book, just some of the things that were brought to the forefront, because why is this taboo? Why does it have to be? And it was just fantastic. I loved it. I love this book. I thought it was great, but I can't go to 5-star because I don't think Tyler Bell got the ending he deserved. He deserved a better one. He didn't need to end up with her because she didn't do enough for him. She wasn't it. So, at least in my opinion. But that is what I read for the Romance Takeover Readathon and my weekly wrap up. So, all in all, this is what my final bingo board looks like. I didn't black it out, but I hit a lot of them. And I'm very, very happy about this. I had a great time with this readathon, and I cannot wait for another edition of it. This was fantastic. I had a great time, and I definitely found a new series that I definitely want to continue with. Sierra Simone, just that book knocked it out of the fucking park for me. I really wish I could have given it a 5-star, though. So, yep, that's what I got for you guys today. I will see you guys all soon with another video. Bye.